It's the first FSU Weather Show of 2023, which is super exciting. I'm student meteorologist Caitlin McKinney, and it's a great start for our spring semester. It's raining, but that's kind of how spring goes. It's always a little more showery than fall. We're sitting at 68 degrees right now. Wind's calm, but it is coming out of the south. That's bringing a lot of extra moisture, all that cloud cover. We might even be experiencing some fog tomorrow if you're walking to your 8 a.m. or commuting to work. Current temperatures, we're sitting in the mid to upper 60s. That's something to think about. We're going to be dipping down a little bit, but not like we have the past couple of days where they had below freezing temperatures. Those plants can all stay outside, which is really nice. Right now, we're monitoring the storm that's happening on the Pacific. If you haven't heard about it, we're going to talk lots and lots more about it. It's bringing lots of natural disasters and lots of storms and rain for our friends over on the West Coast. But we will talk about that later. For our headlines, the Pacific low, like we said, that's bringing all that weather. We have spring-like temperatures here in Tallahassee, and this is the first FSU Weather Show of the spring semester. We have all of this and more on FSU Weather.
Thanks, Caitlin. Welcome to the Spring 2023 show, or first show of the Spring 2023 semester, excuse me. I'm student meteorologist Aaron Saray.
And I'm meteorologist Shane Wilder.
And today we have a lot on the show today, but first off, it looks like we're going to start off things with a little bit with rain here across the Tallahassee area. I actually almost forgot my umbrella coming here, so I was able to beat the rain here.
A little disappointed, Aaron. It's Florida. You always have to bring the umbrella. Even when
Right.
it's sunny, it still rains, I feel like. Yeah, but like I said, even if it's sprinkling outside, bring the umbrella, but this can't rain on our show's parade.
That's right. So even though it is raining outside, it is a nice time here inside the studio here, and we're going to bring you all about that here across much of the 30 minutes here. But we have a lot to talk about, including the atmospheric river that's continuing on across the Pacific Northwest. Of course, that next storm system that's going to develop from that across California, and hopefully bring them one last chance of rain until more of a dry pattern for them.
Yeah, that graphic is really accurate. Everything but the kitchen sink. If you've been following us over winter break, there's been tons of flooding in California. It hopefully comes to an end. Like you said, we have maybe one more system pushing through, and then hopefully get a dry period and they can kind of recover.
That's right. We'll pass things off to the wall with Nicholas.
Thank you, Aaron and Hayden. Yeah, as they were talking about earlier, you can see it's been pretty cloudy over the last few hours. Basically some passing showers that have been dropping off some sprinkles over the last few hours. But right now it's actually pretty warm at 68, and as you can see, it's overall really cloudy in Doak. As for our temperatures, our high today was 74, which is unusually warm for January. Our low was only 42, so as you can see, it's above average, but nothing compared to our record lows and record highs. As for our current temperatures in the Big Bend region, Quincy at 66 right now, Tallahassee 68, and Apalachicola at 69. So as you can see, still warm temperatures even this late into the day. And as for our dew point temperatures in the 60s, so things are actually pretty muggy here in Tallahassee for the winter. As you can see, our current radar, there's just some passing showers coming all from the west, dumping just some slight light showers onto Tallahassee. Mostly here in Apalachicola National Forest is where most of the rain is concentrated at the moment. As for our low temps for tonight, they're actually going to stick around in the 60s, which is, again, pretty warm for nights in January here in the Big Bend region. As for our high tomorrow, Bainbridge, Quincy, they're going to be up in the upper 70s. Tallahassee is going to be 74. Closer to the coast is going to be a little bit cooler, but again, warm temperatures in the 70s, really rare for January. Our future radar, again, we're going to be seeing these passing showers for the next few days, but nothing too severe up until Thursday. As for our marine forecast, 74 degrees is actually not that bad for air temperature to go to the beach, and some actually pretty strong winds at 15 to 20 knots and 3 to 5 feet of seas. As for our rescast, as you can see, it's still pretty cloudy, just like at Doak Campbell Stadium, so maybe not the best time to go to the res. And for our hourly forecast, for tomorrow, 11, it's going to be 69. Temperature is going to go just a bit up to 72 and then go back down into the upper 60s. As for our 7-day forecast, things are going to get pretty heated up. 79 degrees on Thursday, some 50% chance of showers, and our low temperatures are actually pretty high in the upper 50s and 60s. But temperatures are going to go a little bit lower later on into the weekend as some showers will approach us on Saturday and Sunday, 90%, and there will be a slight cool off with a high of 62 on Monday, low of 49, and a high of 66 on Tuesday with a low of 45. So pretty much things are going to be pretty warm for the rest of this week. Again, very unusual for January. So how are things looking for the rest of Florida, Caitlin?
The rest of Florida is looking like above average temperatures. I think that's the story for a lot of the southeast. But looking around, we've got a lot of cloud cover for most of our area. There is a high pressure kind of situated over Miami, bringing them some pretty clear skies. But for most of us, we're experiencing that cloud cover, a lot of that south moisture being pulled into our area and other areas surrounding us. Current temperatures across most of Florida, we're sitting warm. I think it's just hot, and I think that's what we feel like Florida usually is. But temperatures are really above average of what we're seeing for most of the state right now. 70 degrees in Miami, we're only 2 degrees under that. That's how you know we're really experiencing those warm temperatures. Hopefully we see a little bit of a cool down for our area. This is so abnormal for January. Dew points that are showing we're really moist, which is like I think we're seeing that as we're seeing all the cloud cover over our area and most of the areas around us. As we saw from the live cams, we're sitting at lower dew points in South Florida, which is really abnormal than Tallahassee. So they're a little bit drier than us. They do have that high pressure over them, so that's really nice for them. Satellite radar showing the really dry conditions for South Florida. We have a little bit of that passing rain, some convergence happening because we do have that south flow. So we're going to be experiencing showers overnight, spotty, nothing to really mess up your Tuesday night plans. I don't know how crazy they are, but nothing too crazy. Future radar, similar story. We're going to have a little bit more rain coming Thursday night, and then we're going to have a big patch of rain coming later this weekend, which we'll talk about later, as we have some frontal systems moving through. And for Miami, I don't know if anyone has any plans there for this week or maybe this weekend. It's going to be a great sunny time for them as we finish out the week. 81 Thursday. So they're seeing temperatures in the 80s, like we said, really above average temperatures for this time of year. Orlando, I don't know if you're going to Disney World, maybe that's something on your books, or maybe Universal. I don't know really what's going on in that city right now, but we've got high temperatures there too. It's really abnormal for Florida. We think Florida is going to be hot, but I think 82 degrees in January is just unheard of. We're about to hit February, and it's still just going to be warm. Our Tampa Bay folks, I think you guys are going to have a great weekend too. Lots of sunshine, not a lot of rain. The rain is really going to affect the north part of Florida, not really the south part of Florida. You guys are going to be experiencing sunshine and 75 degrees. And for Jacksonville, you guys have a similar story to Tampa, where you're sitting in these upper 70s to 80s. You're going to hit 80 degrees on Thursday, which is going to be wonderful. Lows in the 50s. So, you're going to have some pretty calm and clear nights ahead of you as you going into the end of your work week. Pensacola, where I'm from, you guys are going to have rain over the next couple of days, just like Tallahassee. So you guys are going to have that frontal system that's going to move through. It's going to drop your temperatures to 65, with 47 being your low. So that's something to think about as you're going on to your next couple of days for us here in North Florida and Northwest Florida. Tomorrow's temperatures really warm again. It's January, but it's Florida. So we're going to be in the 70s. It's going to be sunny for most of the state. For our friends in Pensacola, it's not going to be as sunny for you. But our friends in Miami and Tampa and Orlando, you guys are going to have really warm temperatures. It's going to feel like summer. Even though we're starting the spring semester and summer feels like it's in full swing, we're going to pass things off to Hayden. He's going to talk a little bit more about the southeast and what that looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. Yeah, you said it is really warm in Florida. Pretty much, it's quite anomalous to see that in January heading to February, as you alluded to. So, Mexico Beach, just like Michael was previously hit, 67 degrees, looking nice, covering just fine. Charlotte, North Carolina, pretty warm, 66 for North Carolina. A little bit cooler in Atlanta, with a little bit of a cool blue sky there. And then Blacksburg, Virginia, actually, I knew someone that actually went 49 degrees, really. It's still pretty warm for Virginia. Current temperatures right now, 66 Tampa, 69 Orlando, 60s and lower 70s dominating the entire state of Florida, and a bit warmer, 75. So very warm conditions. Across the region, while we have some showers. Now we have some surface convergence, 6 miles an hour winds out of the south off that warm, moist Gulf. And of course, we have that continuing funneling of moisture and warm temperatures in around 9 to 7 miles an hour. And then our dew point temperatures across the southeast. Florida, actually a little bit more humid in the northern Gulf Coast than the Florida Panhandle. And this is all because we have our system. We have all this air that's funneling in from the Gulf. So we have very moist conditions that are prevalent across the area. And of course, a little bit drier conditions up into the Charleston area of around 46, but still pretty moist there. Current radar, not seeing too much precipitation. A little bit of precipitation, is across Georgia. A little bit across Florida Panhandle. The Florida Peninsula is actually looking dry, what I was referring to earlier. And then, of course, the SVC Outlook Day 2, we have a slight risk across the area with damaging wind gusts, hail, and a few tornadoes possible. So like I said, be on the lookout for some severe weather. Definitely could see some across the area. And then New Orleans is on the cusp of that marginal risk. That can be just as damaging as a tornado. So take precautions as if you're dealing with that. The Jackson 3-day outlook starting at 78. That cold comes in looking beautiful, 54 degrees, 53, so very well above that. Friday dropping down to 58, but like I said, it's still above the expect for Alabama. Also know a fellow who lives there. Currently 68 degrees for that. Tomorrow's forecast for Wednesday. And you can see dropping off a little bit by Friday, 53 with a low of 36, approaching the freezing mark. But still, for northern Alabama, once again, above mild temperatures is the key storyline. In Atlanta, looks like we'll have to deal with some rain Wednesday and Thursday with that frontal system. And of course, by Friday, we'll be cooling down to 54 degrees. Like I said, mild is the story once again. Future radar, we see we have the squall line bringing that severe weather risk anywhere from New Orleans, Louisiana, Mississippi, and even western Alabama. And then as the line gets us, it kind of fades apart. It loses kind of upper level energy. You see most of the range actually in the northeast, so we're losing that parental low flow. So tonight's temperatures, very mild in Louisiana 60s, Florida in the lower 50s. Tomorrow's highs, also pretty much 70s dominating the entire southeast, looking very warm. And that's going to continue to be the theme of the day. There's just all these warm temperatures and into the show. Now we're going to hand it off to Aaron for his forecast.
That's right, Hayden. We'll zoom out here and look at the national forecast as we see a tale of two stories here. We have a more mild and warmer south and eastern part of the United States, but then a bit colder as you make your way off to Bismarck. That's really chilly here. It's 21 degrees in Bismarck, 33 in Minneapolis, 31 in Denver. And for our friends out across the Golden State, 57. And actually, that's the sun icon. It's been a while since we've seen that on the map here, but we're finally taking a little bit of a break from those, or that constant atmospheric river, which Caitlin and Nico will talk about here in just a second. Our dew point temperatures are fairly dry across the northern plains, not until you get down to the southeast. So in our neck of the woods, we're seeing more of those 60s and maybe even touching 70, especially down towards New Orleans and along the coastal portions in the bayous of Louisiana. But elsewhere, it is fairly dry across the central and northern U.S. and as well for our friends out across much of the west coast. As for upper level water vapor, we have that swirl here down in Denver. That's our next system that's going to develop from this trough that's digging across much of the west coast here. What it's going to do is it's going to allow for some showers and some storms to form off across the southern plains here. And as that move makes its way off towards the east, we're going to see that perhaps bring a slight chance of severe weather, as Hayden was just talking about, primarily across Mississippi and Alabama in those regions of the U.S. We also have another swirl up there across the Great Lakes that's bringing a little bit of snow across Minneapolis, or across the upper peninsula of Michigan there. And here we are on that surface map. We have that low pressure there bringing some rain and some scattered snow showers there across Wisconsin. We have a bit of that warm front coming in out of the eastern or out of the western United States there. That's why we felt a bit warmer than some of our friends down across the peninsula floor, which is kind of unusual. And then we also have that developing area of low pressure off across the Intermountain West that's going to eventually build off towards the Central Plains and push off towards the northeast. And here's our latest 24-hour Euro precip. We see actually a little bit of snowfall perhaps in the mountains there across Colorado and down into New Mexico, and a little bit of precipitation as you make your way down to the Mexican border. And as we, at least looking at the radar, that kind of confirms that with that snow primarily across Salt Lake City down towards the northern portions of Arizona and over towards Colorado. And as for our drought monitor, it actually might help a bit with that drought situation across Kansas and Oklahoma. Once we get a bit of that snow melt, it might help perhaps with a little bit of the drought situation there. But we need more than just this, of course. And if they can bring some from the West Coast over here, that'd be much preferred across Central Plains. And here are winter weather alerts across the area. We have winter storm warnings from Denver all the way up to the upper plains towards Omaha. So make sure you take some precautions, perhaps get some of that winter gear out again if you've stored it away, or we might see perhaps a bit of snowfall across much of the Central Plains. And this is what I've been mentioning about that snowfall here from about Denver over towards Sioux Falls and Omaha, Nebraska, is where we can see the biggest chance for that snow here, perhaps just under a foot near Grand Island over towards North Platte there, and then up across the higher plains in Colorado, north towards Fleming, maybe closer to 9 inches. And as for our future radar, here, it's moving very fast, but we have that swirl here coming in that later on in the week, as we have that area of low pressure that's going to start off in the out in the mountains there. It's going to push over towards Syracuse and greater New England there. And of course, with that, we'll have that snow and possibly even some heavier amounts as you make your way to upstate New York, over towards Ohio and into Pennsylvania. If you're heading out of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport there in Atlanta, 59 degrees currently, some showers in the area, a little bit cloudy there, so not the best airport viewing conditions if you're looking at or viewing at some of those planes out there. And as for our aerial, or excuse me, I should say our national airports, we're seeing, for the most part, most of the airports should stay fairly dry with perhaps some rain there. And as for high temperature anomalies, we're staying pretty warm across the greater southeastward, so make sure you do prepare as we do have that cooler air coming in. But now I'll pass things over to the desk with Caitlin and Nico.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the Pacific low that was affecting some of our friends over on the Pacific coast. It dumped lots and lots of rain, landslides, sinkholes, all of the works for the national disasters.
So the reason that this happens is due to atmospheric rivers. Now you may be asking, what is an atmospheric river? Well, it's exactly as it sounds like. It's rivers in the atmosphere that carry lots of water. Just like real rivers and streams on land, they carry tons of water. Some atmospheric rivers can carry as much water as the Mississippi River. And they transport all this water to the continent and dump it all out, which is why you're seeing all this rain in California. Now, the way this works is in the Pacific, which is relatively warm and has lots of energy, this moisture is picked up by the jet stream, and the jet stream carries all that water towards the continent. And once it hits the mountains on the Sierra Nevadas, like in California, it just starts dumping all that water. So imagine all the water from the Mississippi River starts to get dumped out and condensed onto all of what's happening in California.
That's a crazy amount of water. So I'm guessing they've had like 2 feet of rain?
Oh, they've had lots of rain.
Lots and lots of rain.
So what happens is, especially in California, which is suffering from drought right now, unfortunately, when so much rain is dumped on in such a short amount of time, it causes mudslides and landslides, and a lot of the rivers start to overflow, and it really creates these natural disasters that we're seeing right now. But on the other side, fortunately, as you may know, California has been in a drought for the past few years, and now this atmospheric river is bringing some alleviation to this drought, and it's not as severe as it was in the last few months.
That's really exciting, because I know last semester we consistently just talked about how it's dry in the West, it's dry in the West, it's dry in the West. So it's definitely weird to see it not being dry in the West. So I think it'll be good that they have that rain. I'm hoping it stops soon, this atmospheric river stops flowing in.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to pass it off to Priscilla for our spotlight.
Thank you, Nico and Caitlin. And now we're going to take a look at the Golden State. So again, our big story of today really is these atmospheric rivers. So California, we're looking at Fresno today. Currently, it's 48 degrees, mostly cloudy, a little bit of winds. Even though we've been having these atmospheric river conditions for the last couple of weeks, right now there's currently a little bit of a break from those conditions. And looking at our current temperatures, currently 51 in Fresno right now, mid-50s, a little bit lower 40s in Phoenix Lake. So pretty cooler temperatures as compared to over here in Tallahassee and the Big Bend region. And as for our low temperatures tonight in the California area, we've got upper 30s, lower 40s, very cold in the mountains over here in Mammoth Lakes. And taking a look at our satellite and radar, like I said again, right now we've got a break from those atmospheric river conditions, but as we get into Wednesday afternoon and it looks like our satellite only goes to Tuesday. But anyways, for our flood reports, all of these images right here are reports of flooding in California. So again, with all the heavy rainfall, there's lots of flooding. So one example is here in Forest Glen, where there's a rock and mudslide over Highway 36. And this is also causing lots of shutdowns in the transportation area. Another example is Joshua Tree over here. And this can really disrupt transportation, people getting to work, travel, visiting family, It's really tough for all those people. So this is the radar I was thinking of. So even though we've got a break from the atmospheric river, there is a low coming in on Wednesday, and that's going to bring lots of rain and mountain snow and potential for mudslides and flooding, which is also very dangerous in California. Since they don't receive as much rainfall, severe rainfall like this, there's less preparation for things like power outages, which can be very difficult. And as for our 3-day outlook, again, we've got a little bit of a break, but temperatures are going to be cool, lower 50s for our highs and upper 30s for our lows. So it's going to be very chilly. And that's pretty much what things are looking like over here. Atmospheric river, again, very important to take a note of. And now we're going to pass it over to Chandler with the lifestyle.
Well, thank you for that. That was an awesome look at California, but we'll take it back over here to Tallahassee. And right now, 68, cloudy. Rain has finally started to disappear a little bit, but we still have strong winds out of the south at 7 miles per hour. Going over to the res a little bit further south than us, they are also cloudy. They're starting to see a little bit of that sun peek through, but again, the rain has kind of dissipated at this point. We're mostly just seeing a lot of cloudy conditions out there with mid-60s, so pretty enjoyable outside of the little bit of rain showers that we've seen. For tonight, we might see a little bit more rain, but we're mostly focused on possibility of fog, with temperatures only getting down to about 59 because of that cloud cover, insulating us and keeping us a little bit warmer than usual. Winds will also still be out of the south at that 4 miles per hour, still affecting a lot of that moisture like Hayden was mentioning. For tonight, it won't be a great viewing time for the stars and the moon. Moon's 21% waning crescent, but again, poor viewing conditions because of all those clouds. As far as that late night driving forecast, if you can stay off the roads, it's probably advisable just because, again, we could see some of that fog. But temperatures will be going down to the low 60s. So, again, if you're trying to get somewhere to enjoy outdoors, definitely can still do that tonight. But, of course, again, there's going to be a decent amount of clouds out and a little bit of possible moisture on the road. So take that into consideration when you're driving tonight. As for that airport forecast, again, 66 degrees, and there's a little bit of light sprinkles, but that won't stop airplanes anytime soon. So, again, we're agreeing, no delays here in the Tallahassee airport. And as Aaron was mentioning, that's pretty much the same for a lot of our East Coast cities because we're not seeing much activity except for a little bit of rain showers across the East Coast. As for our Florida State basketball team, we can expect them to have a little bit cooler conditions up there in Notre Dame, 40 degrees, cloudy sky at 7 p.m. on Saturday. Of course, luckily they're out there on the ball court, so they won't have to worry too much about that, but they'll have to be bundled up going in to play Notre Dame. As for the dog walk forecast, we're going to get up to about 68 degrees by 11 a.m. Definitely something that you can enjoy in the morning and going into noontime. So if you have a dog, go ahead and walk them. And, of course, beautiful puppy here in our background. Now for the beach forecast, if you want to enjoy the sun, you definitely can. 74 degrees is definitely a beautiful condition. However, we have that high risk for rip currents, and the water's cool, so I don't advise swimming. However, if you want to watch other people swim, you can go to Gainesville and watch our team play against the Gators. 70 degrees, partly sunny skies, beautiful conditions. For that 4-day outlook, again, we're going to warm up a little bit onto Thursday, but then cool back down as we get towards the weekend. A little bit of rain, a little bit of sun, a little bit of mixed bag altogether, but we'll go to Aaron so he can go more in-depthly about our outlook in Tallahassee.
That's right. It will continue to be actually really pleasant this evening, 66 degrees and cloudy across Tallahassee there, with winds calm right now as we have that cloudy conditions across much of the area. But overall, it should be a great night tonight across much of the area with those temperatures dripping down into the, excuse me, the 50s. There were 66 in Tallahassee, over to 66 in Quincy, and then 69 down towards Apalachicola. It might be a bit warmer towards the coast as we see there, so 70. So don't let those boxes fool you. It'll still feel pretty warm across much of the area. Our dew points across much of the area, we're going to stay relatively moist with most of the dew points staying in at least in the 60s. Our more drier spot is perhaps down in St. Mark's there in the upper 50s. So overall, a pretty moist night. And the reason why, and partially the reason why, is because we had those showers across the area that are bringing, excuse me, some of those showers across much of the western panhandle. Those are moving its way into across Tallahassee and over into across I-10. Tonight's low temperatures, for the most part, should stay down into about 60 degrees or so. A little bit warmer down to the coast there, 62 in Apalachicola. Tomorrow's high temperatures should go up to about 74 degrees in Tallahassee, 77 in Quincy, and over to 75 in Monticello there. And we actually might see a bit of sunshine tomorrow, so make sure, might need that rain gear perhaps at the beginning part of the day until we see that sunshine come out there with at least with some clouds across the area. So those clouds and showers should continue across much of Tallahassee there as we see that push out with that cold front coming in on Wednesday and Thursday. So don't put away those rain gears yet. We also might need to bring that back out here on Thursday. And as for a marine forecast here across Panama City Beach, 74 degrees with some of that sunshine right now. Winds out of the south at 15 to 20 knots. A little bit windier down to the coastline there. That's what's helping produce those waves down for about 3 to 5 feet there, and a water temperature down to 62 degrees. So a little bit cooler down to the beach if you're making your way down in that direction. Excuse me. So our hourly forecast, temperatures for the most part should remain in the upper 60s to low 70s here, and should for the most part remain a pretty pleasant day tomorrow with those rain chances staying pretty low, but again, those cloud cover persisting across much of the area. And as for our 7-day forecast, looking really nice after about Wednesday or Thursday, with those temperatures taking a nosedive to about 63 degrees or so until we have another gradual brief warm-up on Sunday. But now we'll pass things over to the back of the desk with Priscilla and Chandler.
Thank you for that, Aaron. Well, it's been a tale of two halves, mostly cold and wet and snowy on the west coast, and then warm, also a little bit rainy here on the east coast. What do you think about that?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, with those atmospheric river conditions, it's bringing a lot of rain, flooding, which is very dangerous, over, and mountain snow over to the west, which is very much a change of conditions for them, considering west is usually experiencing a lot of drought.
That's right. And well, when you look at the drought monitor, it's pretty much disappearing for them. The big, huge splotches of red that we normally see where they have extreme, exceptional drought. And actually, if you look at satellite, you can see it's much greener than it was. I was showing a friend, California is actually looking pretty green compared to where it was in September. Quite beautiful.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be very good for the crops over in California. But over here in the southeast, things are warming up, aren't they?
That's right. We've had a decent amount of moisture coming out of that Gulf, and so we've had a lot of warm weather, as we've talked about on this show. But you can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/FSU weather when the weather changes.
Make sure to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/FSU weather.
And of course, you can watch us live on YouTube at youtube.com/FSU weather.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram at FSU weather for updates.
That's right. Well, again, Tallahassee's looking pretty for the next few days, so take advantage.
I'm student meteorologist Priscilla Vijalta.
And I'm student meteorologist Chandler Pruitt. Have a good night.